Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is prepare this place. As you can see, this is a nice big place. What you're looking for with this, for quality, is obviously nice bright eyes. You want to smell of the sea, not fishy. You check the gills, make sure they're nice and red, which they are, and then obviously with place you've got these beautiful orange spots on there as well. Now this is quite a big place, and this time of year they're really good. So we're in sort of the end of October, beginning of November. Flatfish are really starting to grow fatter and big. Now when I fillet a fish like this, I always turn it over onto its front, so the white side's showing. The reason why I do that is if you start the other side, once you've taken them fillets off, the actual fish will rock and it's actually harder to fillet. So if you turn it onto its back first and start this way, you'll end up with the actual place not rocking at all. So what we're looking for when we fillet in a place like this is just to follow the guideline really. It's quite convenient, the actual flatfish does actually show you where to put the knife. So if you start where the neck is and come round by the neck, and then follow the line all the way down. Nice sharp knife obviously. Always wipe your knife in between each time you use it. And then what you're looking for is come down either side. And come as close as you can to the bone. That part of the knife there should always be against the bone. If you can't feel it, you're not actually, you'll be cutting into the flesh of the fish. So take one fillet off. There's quite a bit of roe on the fish this time of year, so just watch out for that. Make sure you don't pay just for the roe and not the fish. Just turn the fish around. Now this time we go from the tail and come all the way to the head. And then work down, making sure the knife is against the bone. Switch your knife around and off in one like that. Now turn the whole thing over. And again, there's a line there which you can follow all the way down. So come around the neck of the fish and follow that line all the way down to the tail. And then the same thing, come in one stroke. Make sure you can see where you're going. A lot of chefs I've seen, just putting the knife down the fish and then actually watching where the fish is. So you just got to make sure you can see exactly where your knife is going, just to be safe. And same thing again, start from the tail of the fish. Again, try to make sure the roe's out of the way. You don't want to cut through that really, it gets everywhere. There you go. So you end up with a frame, which obviously we would save for stock. And then you set about trimming the fillets down. What I don't like seeing is a fish that's trimmed up too much. I mean, it's an expensive product. Even place is expensive nowadays. There's no such thing as cheap fish. So just make sure you don't take too much off and keep the natural shape of the fish as well. It's nothing. You see a lot of blocked off fish. And what I mean is, it looks like it's square. There is a natural shape to the fish fillet. It looks beautiful. So, when you've got that on a plate, I think it looks much nicer than a square piece of fish. Always run your finger along the actual flesh of the fish. Make sure there's no little bones. Sometimes when you've got a really sharp knife, you catch the bones that are against the sort of the structure of the fish, and you just want to make sure you don't, they're not left there behind. They're not very nice to eat. There you have it. You got 4 nice fillets there off of that fish. What I've got here is a lobster. Technically, if you bought this lobster from the market and you want to talk to the fishmonger, these are actually called a crippled lobster, and what that means, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just means it's either at sea or when it's been caught, or at the market it's lost one of its claws. This is a really good way of actually buying lobster if you want to get lobster onto your menu but you can't quite afford to do it, because these will come in at maybe £3 or £4 cheaper a kilo than a normal sort of lobster that you would present whole, or you would cut in half and serve grilled. So what I'm going to do this to kill this. This has been in the freezer for half an hour, and what that does is it just calms it right down, so it makes it go to sleep almost. Try and do that with your lobsters, because it's not only for the benefit of the lobster, it's actually really for the quality of the meat. If the lobster's stressing and it's been left out in the kitchen, for example, it actually comes more alive. It's getting warmer, therefore it would stress the meat. So if you freeze it for half an hour, what you'll do is it will relax. When you kill it, it doesn't stress out so much, and you'll get a more tender lobster. All right. So first thing you need to do, nice sharp knife. You're looking for the cross on the top of the head there. You want to make sure you hit it first time and you put the knife straight in. Okay. That instantly kills it. The lobster will still move, like anything that gets cut in half will move. But that's actually where the brain is, and that basically kills the lobster in one. Next thing we need to do is just take off the claws, and then we remove the tail. So hold the head and the tail and twist the lobster. Like so. Now the heads, we keep all the heads and all the rows from the head, which is this part here. We'll keep that, and we can put that through sauces. We're going to put it through the sauce that I'm going to make today, but it's also through pasta, and that's when you get that sort of fancy looking red pasta using this part of the lobster. Now this lobster is about a kilo to 1.2 kilos in weight. So the tail of it is probably going to weigh about, depending on when it's come out of the water, this tail should weigh about sort of 400 to 500 grams. For this dish, because I don't want to cook the lobster all the way through, but I just want to release the meat from the shell, I would cook it just for a couple of minutes. The actual claw, I'd actually give it maybe 5 or 6 minutes. It takes a little bit longer to cook. Claw in first for 5 minutes, and when that's had 3 minutes, I'll put the tail in there as well. So the tail goes in for a couple of minutes. What you're looking for with the lobster is to actually let it cool down a bit, but you don't want to let it go cold, because the actual lobster's got quite a lot of fat, and the fat solidifies, and you can't get the actual meat out of the shell. So this bit, sometimes you burn your hands a little bit, but it's worth it, obviously, in the end. So what we're looking for is just to give the smaller side of the pincher a little bit of a pitch, and that should come out. And then we turn it over. Using the back of the knife, or a hammer if you've got one, just get the shell out. Like so. I always use the back of one of these cheaper spoons. I think it's good for if you haven't got an actual lobster picker. These actually work really well for it. You can see there all the fat there. That goes solid, and the actual meat actually sticks to the shell. And then with this bit, you just want to pull the meat out. What's good about this dish is when you're making the lobster scampi is that you can use all these pieces that are not the most prettiest for something like this, and obviously therefore you can use it to go with the fish dish like I'm using now, and it just keeps the price down. Now with the tail, what it needs to do is just push it out flat, pull the end off there, and then with your hands just gently crush the shell. You don't want to obviously destroy the tail, and then the whole thing should just come off. Like so. And And then what you're looking for is to cut the lobster tail in half. Come slightly off the centre because you need to remove the intestine, which is inside. If you go straight down the centre, you actually cut straight through it. And what's in there is a lot of sand the lobster actually eats. So you just want to come to one side. A little bit of roe there left as well. Just take that out. And then you see it there, you just want to make sure you don't really break that part, because once you break that, all that sandy texture actually come through onto the lobster meat. Give it a little check, make sure there's nothing there. And then what we do is we cut this into nice pieces of lobster. I tend to cut the lobster where it naturally seems so it looks as natural as possible, so just where them lines tell me to cut. So you've got these lovely pieces of lobster, all equal size, and once they're cool, we'll put them through the flour, egg and breadcrumbs, and then they'll be ready to go into the fryer. Okay, so we take the pieces of lobster now that they've cooled, and we'll just put them through the flour. Make sure we knock off any excess flour. We don't want any raw flour in the actual lobster, it's not very nice. Through the egg. I'm using Japanese breadcrumbs here, but sometimes we just use the breadcrumbs left over from the bread that we use. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you've got to get a competitive lunch menu together at 25 quid like we've got here. So, I'm just going to little bit of light rapeseed oil and a bit of sea salt on the fish. This dish doesn't need any pepper, so just salt. Now what I'm going to do is just going to grill this piece of plaice, and I like grilled plaice just purely because the skin protects the protein, and what tends to happen with plaice if you pan fry it, it dries out because it's not that much moisture in the flesh of it, so the skin actually acts as a barrier to protect the fish when it's cooking. And stick that under the grill, and that'll take about sort of 4 or 5 minutes. Right, so while the fish is cooking, I'm just going to cook the garnish. So hot pan with some light rapeseed oil. And what I've got here is a potato terrine. There's layers of Maris Piper potatoes with a little bit of cheese in between. It's just baked and layered up in a terrine mould, and then we bake that at sort of a 180 for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long it takes to cook. We just got to check it. Then we press it, cool it down, and then slice it into a piece. That's one of the nice garnishes with it. And I've also got some small young leeks that have just been blanched and refreshed. They've been blanched for about 2 or 3 minutes. Just check on the fish, make sure it's not cooking too fast. Sometimes what you get with a fish like this is in a hot grill is it'll colour and dry out on top. So you just need to sometimes you need to reduce the heat. So what I'm going to do is just bring it down to a lower point in the grill and not rush it. Now what I've got here is my sauce. This is called Poor Philly sauce. Now Poor Philly is an area of Cornwall where my restaurant is, and the story behind this sauce and how we create it, it's made with shore crabs, which are the little crabs you find when you're actually when you're crabbing as a kid. Well, they actually are like a vermin for a mussel grower, and we got a mussel grower that's opposite the restaurant. So I said to him, I'll do him a favour and use as many of them shore crabs as I can for him, and then we invented this sauce. And what the result was from doing that was such a unique, lovely flavour that we've decided to call it Poor Philly sauce, because that's where the crabs come from. But what I've done with that as well is added a few lobster heads. Also in the recipe there's a few tomatoes, we've got some tarragon in there, and then some fish stock, and the whole thing's emulsified together. And you boil it down with the butter in it, which is against all rules. You're told to always skim off any fat that comes to the surface, but with this you want to rapidly boil it and reduce it down so it emulsifies as it cooks, and then you just blend it up in the Thermomix. We'll warm that up. And what I'm looking for with the garnish is just to get a little bit of colour on the actual ingredients. At this point now, I'm going to take, the fish is slightly under still. You see it's still a little bit under, so what I'm going to do is leave it on the tray, and the residual heat that's in that tray will just finish that fish off. Okay, so the last thing to do, just a couple of minutes before everything's cooked, is just drop the lobster scampi, and obviously that's already been cooked to a certain point, so we're looking just to colour the breadcrumbs and make sure that the actual breadcrumbs are nice and crisp and golden. So this is a typical sort of dish for me. I mean, as you can see, I'm quite a big lad and I like my food, so the portions are always a good size, and making sure there's enough sauce in the dish is actually, making sure there's enough sauce in the dish is very important for me. I hate having like a piece of meat or a piece of fish left over and there's not enough sauce to mop it up with, and that's something I try to insist with all the chefs. We make sure there's enough sauce left. There's nothing worse than finish off your roast dinner and not having any gravy, is there? So you got the potato terrine, and then the place. On top of that, a few of these sort of young baby leeks. And there we got these pieces of lobster scampi. And then what I've got here is some lemon oil, which is just a light rapeseed oil that we've infused with lemon zest and a touch of juice as well. We'll just finish that. That will just bring a little bit of acidity and a bit of freshness to the plate. And there you have it. So that is my grilled plaice with lobster scampi and pork filly sauce.